everybody. We're doing rhombus today. So rhombus, here's the notes for rhombus. Of course, we're not going to be checking notebooks, but when it takes the test, it helps to have all the rules on one place. I have not scheduled your test, but it will probably be next week. Last week of April. Starting April 27th. So these are the rhombus rules. I'm going to switch to just the document camera. There we go. So rhombus rules, if you notice the very first thing in the rhombus rules, it says parallelogram rules, because rhombi are parallelogram. That's a plural for rhombus. Rhombi are parallelograms. So when it comes to a rhombus, we have to go back to all of our parallelogram rules. So opposite sides are still parallel. Opposite sides are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. Consecutive angles are supplementary. Diagonals bisect each other. Diagonals make two congruent triangles. So all of those rules still apply. So everything that you know about parallelograms is true for rhombus. Now rhombus has some additional rules. So diagonals are perpendicular. So that means the diagonals make a right angle. So when we have diagonals here, all four of these angles will be right angles each, because the diagonals are perpendicular. All sides are congruent. So that means this side equals this side equals this side equals this side. When they talk about sides, they're not talking about the diagonals. They're talking about the outer edges of the shape. And then the diagonals bisect opposite angles. So the diagonal bisects the angles, so that means that's two equal angles. That means that's two equal angles. And since opposite angles are equal, this piece is going to equal this piece. This piece is going to equal this piece. Same goes over here. We have these two pieces are going to be equal to each other because they're bisected. This big angle is bisected, so we have two equal angles. And these two equal angles will also be equal to these two angles. Okay, so a lot of information there, most of it verbal. But we're going to mark up, I didn't want to mark up my picture. I could always draw another picture, but I didn't want to mark up my picture with all of that. I could draw it here. Let me get something more sturdy. Okay, never mind. Not sturdy. So this angle will equal this, this angle will equal this angle, which will also equal this angle, and this angle will also be equal. So all four of these angles will be equal to each other. And then this angle and this angle will be equal to each other, along with this angle and this angle. So all four of those angles are equal. And then the angles in here, we have a right angle, a right angle, a right angle, and a right angle. Okay. So the diagonals are perpendicular, makes those four right angles. The diagonals bisect opposite angles, and opposite angles are equal because that's a parallelogram thing. So that means all parts are equal in each pair of opposite angles. And then all sides are equal. So this side equals this side equals this side equals this side. And then if you remember on the parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other, which means the pieces of the diagonals are going to be equal to each other, and then these pieces of the diagonal are going to be equal to each other. Okay, so rhombus, S-U-P-E, it's super. So it's a super rhombus. So it says measure of angle SEU is 39.5. I forgot to write degrees. I think my green is getting low. Alright, so SEU is going to be right here. That is 39.5 degrees. Okay. measure of angle EPU. So EPU, oh, is this whole thing, okay? And angle SRU, that would be this thing right here. So we need to find measure of angle EPU and measure of angle SRU. Okay. Measure of angle EPU. I'm not really sure what it is. Excuse me. EPU. I don't know what this piece is. I know that this piece is 39.5 degrees because the two pieces at the same angle are going to be equal to each other. And I also know that this is 39.5 and this is 39.5. Okay, so I know that all of those are 39.5. I also know that the diagonals are perpendicular. So we have all of these right angles there. So angle SRU is this angle right here. So that is a right angle. Alright, so angle SRU is a right angle, and a right angle is 90 degrees. So that one is easy. We can answer that right off the bat. So angle SRU, this angle right here, SRU, is a right angle. So, and if you remember, if you notice, we have a triangle. Let's see if I can outline this triangle in a color. If I can get a color to work. Okay, there's that. Okay, we have to be patient with my colors because I bought very cheap lead from Amazon because I don't have the lead from my classroom, which was better lead. And so I just kind of have to make do because it's very, very cheap. Notice I outlined a triangle. So we know that this angle is 90 degrees. We know that this angle is 39.5. We need to find, if we can find this angle, then we can know what each one of these pieces are. Because this is a piece of this opposite angle. And remember, the pieces are equal to each other. So we need to find this angle right here. The three angles on a triangle, three angles on a triangle add to 180. So 90 plus 39.5 plus this angle here equals 180. And I forgot my calculator, so I have to bear with me. 90 plus 39.5. So let me get a 0.0 here. Okay, so 5 decimal drops down. That's 9, that's 12. Okay, so we have to do 180 minus 129.5. So let's make that 0.0. We have to borrow, so let's make that 7. Okay, that makes that 10, and we borrow and make it 9, and makes that 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5. Drop the decimal down. 9 minus 9 is 0. 7 minus 2 is 5, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So 50.5. That's not our answer here for EPU. That is our answer for that. EPU is the whole thing. The whole thing. Okay, we know that this piece is 50.5. We also know that this piece is 50.5. We also know that this piece is 50.5. And we know that this piece is 50.5. So measure of angle EPU is 50.5 plus 50.5. EPU is the whole thing. Okay, the whole thing. So we have to add those together, or you could times 1 by 2. 5 plus 5 is 10. So that makes that a 1. And 5 and 5 is 10. 101. So measure of angle EPU is 101 degree. Okay. This is an if situation. Since it's an if situation, when we start a new if situation, that means we start with a new rhombus. So I can't really erase all of that. I'm just going to redraw my rhombus so that I could refill in the information for part B. Okay, S, U, P, E, and then R. Okay, so now we fill in the new information. So the new information, let me get a color here. SU is 8x minus 5. Okay, 8x minus 5. SE is 6x plus 3. And this says to find the value of x. Well, we know that on a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal, but we don't know what this side is. And we don't know what this side is for opposite of that. But this is a rhombus. And a rhombus says that all sides are equal. All sides. So it doesn't matter what two sides you set equal to each other. If you have two sides, any two sides on a rhombus are equal to each other. Not talking about diagonals, only talking about sides, the outer edges. So we get 8x minus 5 equals 6x plus 3. We need to get all our x's together, so we have to do our inverse operations. We get 2x minus 5 equals 3. We need to get all of our whole numbers together. So I get 2x, this pencil lead tests my patience. 3 plus 5 is 8. So we get x equals 4, and we're done with that problem. Okay, the next problem. So I'm going to redraw my rhombus. S-U-P-E-R. Okay. It says SP is 12. Okay, well, I can't quite label that because there's two parts there. ER is 8. This is 8. We need to find SU. So I'm going to put my X there. So we need to find X, SU. I know that this piece is 8. Well, if you remember on a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other. Remember, that means two equal parts. Okay? So if this piece is 8, then this piece is 8. If SP is 12, that means this piece is 6 and this piece is 6 because it has to be equal. And if you remember, the angle here is actually a right angle. So I have, just redrawing, this is S-U-R. I have my right angle here because the right angle and the R kind of hard to see them separate. So let me move this out a little bit. There we go. So now we have this triangle. SU I called X. RU is 8. RS is 6. This is a right triangle. On a right triangle, you could do the Pythagorean theorem. You've done this before. You know it as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The only important part of that is the hypotenuse. It doesn't matter the other two sides, which one is A, which one's B. What does matter is the hypotenuse. Remember that the right angle points to the hypotenuse. So that is x squared. It does not matter which of these go in the A spot. So I could say 6 squared is the A, or I could say 8 squared is the A. I'm just going to do it this way. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared. So then I get 36 plus 64. 36 plus 64, when you add those together, you get 100. And then when you square root both sides to get rid of the square root of 100 is a positive and a negative 10. The only problem is we don't need a negative because we can't have a negative length. So we just worry about the positive answer. So we don't need to worry about plus or minus signs. We just need the positive. So x equals 10. So that means x, we put it for SU, SU equals 10. Would be your official answer. So you may have a problem or two that uses the Pythagorean theorem. You've done it before. Kind of look for it. If you have a right triangle and you have 2 of the 3 sides and you need the third one, that's the Pythagorean theorem. And remember that when you're using the Pythagorean theorem, find the hypotenuse first and put that in the C spot. Whatever your hypotenuse is always goes in the C spot. That's the important part. The other 2 can go in either A or B. Okay, so that is it for your rhombus lesson. So remember to follow the rhombus rules. Write them down if you need to. Play the video multiple times, whatever you need to do. But this is the rhombus. Have a good day.